Over on BBC Two in a moment, there's a celebration of Christmas from the chapel of King's College, Cambridge. This is BBC One, now the news at 6 o'clock with Moira Stewart.
British and American helicopters clash with Iranian gunboats in the Gulf. Two elderly sisters strangled in the corner shop they've run for half a century. And the drink-drive offenders behind bars for Christmas. Good evening. Iranian gunboats have opened fire with machine guns on an American Navy helicopter in the Gulf and fired shots or flares to warn off a British helicopter from the frigate HMS Scylla. They weren't hit and didn't return the fire. The Americans and British were answering a call for assistance from a Liberian supertanker, and after the incident, the Iranian gunboats returned to their base on Abu Musa Island. Earlier, off Dubai, a Norwegian supertanker was attacked and set on fire in another attack by Iranian gunboats.
The Liberian-registered tanker Eastern Power was about 10 to 15 miles from the island of Abu Musa, known to be a base for Iranian Revolutionary Guards and their hit-and-run gunboats, when the crew spotted several small craft approaching shortly before 8 o'clock this morning. An American Navy helicopter responded to the crew's radio message that they feared an attack, and a British naval helicopter soon joined in, shadowing the Iranian gunboats as well. The Iranians launched a flare at the aircraft before the British helicopter had to return to its ship, the frigate HMS Scylla, for refueling. The American Navy helicopter then reported that it had attracted small arms fire, which missed, and another helicopter with a television crew aboard, which took these pictures of the Iranian gunboats, reported that it was fired on as well. There was no damage, no one was injured, and the Iranians made off. Then the British frigate Scylla offered the Liberian tanker its protection.
This is Eastern Power, over. Roger. Request you make your course to the southwest. Over.
It's believed to be the first time a Western warship has offered to escort a vessel not flying the same flag, and the Liberian tanker seemed pleased to accept. Meanwhile, a Norwegian supertanker, which burned for 2 hours yesterday after being attacked by Iranian gunboats, has arrived in the southern port of Dubai. Tugs put out the fire aboard the Burger Big, and no one was hurt in the incident, which comes at the end of a month in which attacks on Gulf shipping have reached a new height. The most recent spate was expected as retaliation for an Iraqi attack on 4 Iranian chartered vessels on Tuesday.
Many thousands of Palestinians have been marching through the largest refugee camp in Syria in a protest against Israeli violence in the occupied West Bank and Gaza Strip. The demonstrators chanted slogans against Israel and vowed to make revenge attacks. They are angry about the deaths of 22 Palestinians killed by the Israelis during 2 weeks of violence in the occupied territories. Iranian embassy staff joined Palestinian officials to lead the 2-hour protest. In Bethlehem, Israeli troops were out in force patrolling the streets after the outbreak of unrest earlier this week. The mayor cancelled some festivities, saying people were not in the mood for them. But thousands of pilgrims have been gathering to celebrate Christmas. But they were searched by troops. The ceremonies began this afternoon with a procession for a senior Roman Catholic churchman who'd come to celebrate Mass. The Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Robert Runcie, has appealed for the release of the hostages in Lebanon. He said he was thinking especially of Terry Waite, who disappeared in Beirut in January, and of the British journalist John McCarthy, who's spending his second Christmas in captivity. Dr. Runcie said Islam and Christianity respected each other. That was why he had no hesitation in making a Christmas appeal to religious and political leaders to do all they could to bring about the release of the hostages. A Christmas message has been released from Terry Anderson, one of the American hostages in Beirut. He appeals for more effort to negotiate their release and says the hostages are reaching their limit. Police in Birmingham have begun a murder inquiry after the bodies of 2 elderly sisters were found in their corner shop in the Sparkhill area of the city. The 2 women, aged 87 and 77, were killed in the general store which they'd run for almost 50 years.
Alice Rowley, who was 87, was found in the rear living room of the premises in Greswold Road, Spark Hill. She'd been strangled. Her sister Edna, who was 77, was found in an upstairs bedroom. She'd been suffocated. Police believe it's possible the women knew their attacker. There was no sign of a break-in or of a struggle, but the premises had been searched.
It's difficult to find words. Two defenceless old ladies living in that area for 40 to 50 years. Sickening, I think, would be an apt expression.
They were really nice people, the two of them. Oh, God bless us. The person that done that to them two old ladies, I don't know.
The sisters were last seen alive at around 5:45 on Tuesday evening, and police are now anxious to trace anyone who saw anything suspicious in the vicinity of the Greswold stores at around that time.
A 16-year-old Italian boy is being questioned by police in Rome about the hijack last night of a Dutch airliner. The boy surrendered to anti-terrorist police at Rome airport after first demanding to be flown to New York. The hijacker threatened to let off a bomb on a flight from Amsterdam to Milan. At Rome, he released all passengers and crew and turned out to be unarmed. His mother has flown to Rome to see him. One person was killed and 38 injured in a railway collision on the outskirts of Paris. A commuter train heading towards the city ran into an empty train in the rush hour. 10 of the injured are seriously hurt. 7 French fishermen are feared drowned after their trawler sank in the channel 12 miles north of Calais. 1 body has been found. French Coast Guard say the weather has been calm and there's no indication why the boat sank. The former American President Gerald Ford has been given extra bodyguards following the escape from prison last night of Lynette Fromm. She was convicted of trying to kill him in 1975. Lynette Fromm, better known as Squeaky Fromm, said during her trial she had attacked President Ford to back her demand for the retrial of the mass killer Charles Manson, who murdered Sharon Tate and 5 other people in 1969. In an interview earlier this year, she reaffirmed her devotion to Manson.
I fall in love with him continuously, but he's very brilliant, and yet whatever he wants to be, I let him be that.
Traditionally, Christmas is when charities make their big appeal for funds, but the competition for donations is getting tougher. This year alone, 4,000 new charities were launched. So, in an attempt to find alternative sources of funding, some charities are turning to the city. John Fryer reports.
Graham Hicks is an unlikely winner on the stock exchange. Meningitis has left him deaf and blind. There's a charity which tries to help people like him do a worthwhile job, but they simply haven't got the cash. Now, on the proceeds of some sharp share dealings, he's producing a newsletter in Braille for those with a similar disability.
I feel that I am doing something useful, which helps other people.
His equipment's been bought with profits made by stockbrokers, given money by charities, all of it underwritten so it can't be lost, to gamble on the stock market. It's a far cry from rattling boxes for the needy on street corners.
I can't imagine shareholders would have any objection.
Charities are now in the video age. They've gone commercial, selling hard direct to the men in control, company chairman.
There'd be PR opportunities, and it could even help sales.
Charities, like sport, are finding themselves sucked into the world of sponsorship and public relations. It's the price they're having to pay while there's such intense competition for funds. There are about 160,000 charities already, and 4,000 new ones are being created every year.
The need is there. The need is astronomical, both in this country, for instance, for home-based charities and for overseas aid charities, as we're seeing with Ethiopia still. And therefore the need is absolutely massive. And although the income is very large of the charitable sector, there's a long way to go.
Some fear it's all tarnishing the act and spirit of giving, and that only the powerful charities will have the resources to exploit increased commercialization. But like it or not, charities and big business are being drawn closer together.
This year's Christmas crackdown on people who drink and drive appears to have been one of the most effective to date. The police and the Department of Transport say injuries and accidents are down significantly. And the courts have taken a tough line. In Dunstable, 3 drink drivers were ordered by magistrates to spend 2 days in police cells.
The police say that this year's campaign against drinking and driving does seem to be working. They say the number of road accidents is down by 1/4 on last year. And although they've tested more motorists, the number of positive tests is also down. But at Bangor in North Wales, a man who was stopped 5 times in 5 weeks for drink driving offences was sent to prison this morning for 6 months. Magistrates said it was the worst case they'd ever dealt with. It's been a bumper Christmas for the shops. This year we've spent more than £18 billion, £2 billion more than last year, and we're using more credit. One of the big credit card companies says its business is up by nearly 1/4 on last Christmas. And railway stations have also been busy, but from 10 o'clock tonight there will be no trains anywhere in Britain until Sunday. The post office has had its busiest Christmas ever. Nearly 1.5 billion letters, cards and parcels have been delivered in the past month.
In Belfast, the Royal Corps of Transport has been helping Father Christmas on his rounds. They provided him with a sleigh specially decorated for the occasion.
Santa has never quite had transport like it. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it is not. But the vehicle has become a Christmas tradition for men of the Royal Corps of Transport based in Belfast, offering Father Christmas an alternative to his inappropriate sleigh. It took 2 soldiers a fortnight to complete the snow job and decorations, and since then Santa has been appearing at various Christmas parties around the city, jumping down nimbly from the disguised Saracen with a bulging sack full of gifts. The 4-wheeled armoured sleigh is a favourite with children living in a city where the joyful celebrations of Christmas time can so easily be soured or destroyed by terrorist violence. But the life of the red-nosed white charger is only temporary. When Christmas time is over, the vehicle will return to the anonymity of the regulation livery of dirty camouflage green.
The parishioners of Brook End in Gloucestershire had to make a difficult decision this year where to hold their carol services while the village church was being repaired. But they've come up with an imaginative solution. They're holding this year's Christmas services in the local pub.
The locals of Brook End traditionally gather in the Lammastide for a little Christmas spirit. But up to now, it's pints, not prayers, that have been on their mind. But this year, the village found its own crisis at Christmas when it became clear the normal place of worship, St Andrew's, would be out of use. Since the autumn, a badly leaking roof has made the building unusable. The vicar was delighted when the offer of the village's only other meeting place was made.
There will always be people who think you shouldn't be doing what you are doing, but then there are 2 types of Christians, those who suffer from religion and those who enjoy it, and I think we belong here to the category that enjoy their religion.
Any fears the locals would stay away proved unfounded.
Made it easier for, especially, you know, a child this age to be able to come and join in, because it's the first year he's really heard carols or anything, more relaxed atmosphere.
And super all round, I think, yes.
Tomorrow morning, the pub will again act as a place of worship. There'll be a Holy Communion again in the bar.
And that's all for now. Our main news on BBC One tonight is at 10:25.
Hello to you. Well, it's been a very misty day today. Fog patches over the hills as far south as the moors and indeed the Chilterns as well. But it's going to be a much brighter day tomorrow. A bit stormy in those northern parts, and it looks as though these fronts are going to race rain in from the west as we go through into Boxing Day. Well, at the moment there's still a fair amount of rain on the western side, some fairly heavy pockets of rain there. That's going to work its way eastwards, I think, as we go through the night. Although by around midnight, I think much of that will have cleared away. Some clear weather tucking in behind, but still a lot of squally showers in the north. In fact, it is going to turn out to be quite a windy night and indeed a windy day up there tomorrow. Down in the south, I think at the end of the night, the temperatures may just get around 3 degrees Celsius, so perhaps a touch of ground frost in 1 or 2 places. Tomorrow then, a much brighter day, as I've said. A good deal of sunshine and dry for many of us. Some showers dotted around in the west and the north, but they'll largely be confined to those far northern parts, I think, during the course of the afternoon. A mildish day, as you can see. And then as we go through into Boxing Day, quite bright in the south to start with. Rain will be pushing into those northern parts, though, and then in the second half of the day, some of that rain getting into the south, but at the same time, northern parts brightening up, but still fairly windy. Well, that's what the weather looks like. From all the weathermen, may I wish you a very Merry Christmas and leave you with a summary.
In 5 minutes, Jimmy Savile will be making some more dreams come true in a special Jim'll Fix It for Christmas.
This is BBC One in the West. Now Chris Vasher presents a special Christmas Eve edition of Points West.
Good evening. In Points West tonight, a man's been charged with murder in Swindon. One of Bristol's leading stores upset staff over plans for the New Year sales, and the dogs abandoned even before Christmas. But first tonight, a Swindon man has been charged with the murder of his common-law wife at their home in the town. And in a separate incident in Swindon, a man's critically ill after being attacked at a hostel. James Garrett reports.
The first incident happened at a house in the Park South area of Swindon. 38-year-old Kenneth Holmes has been charged with the murder of his 26-year-old common-law wife Carol. He'll appear before magistrates on Saturday. Their 4 children have been taken into care. And in a separate incident in Swindon, 21-year-old Daniel Chalk is critically ill with severe head injuries after being attacked at a bail hostel in Croft Road. A 17-year-old who's also staying at the hostel is being questioned by police.
And police reinforcements had to be called into Gloucester overnight to deal with a series of street fights. Several people, including a policeman, were slightly hurt, and 8 people are in custody at Gloucester Police Station. Well, now, believe it or not, staff are staying on late at some of the major stores in the region tonight to prepare for the New Year sales. But the spirit of peace and goodwill became rather strained today at one Bristol department store, with the union accusing management of threatening to lock in all the staff after closing time until the extra work was done.
Just over an hour ago, the doors were closed at Dingles in Clifton, leaving the shoppers and news cameras locked out and the staff, according to the union, locked in. The shop workers' union Usdaw accused the management of being Scrooges and acting more like prison officers. They claim one fashion department assistant said she was furious when she was told no one would be allowed to leave until all the sale preparation was finished. But tonight the store manager denied the staff had been threatened with a lock-in. The stay late rule was only optional and only one person had complained. He said the majority were very willing to stay on.
Every Christmas brings a seasonal warning about giving pets for presents. But even before the wrapping paper begins to fly, one West Country animal shelter is having to turn customers away.
This cuddlesome threesome turned up in a cardboard box, abandoned in a caravan near Frome. At 5 weeks old, they're much too young to have been parted from mum. But they're among the lucky ones who are guaranteed a cosy Christmas at Hooper's Pool Animal Shelter near Trowbridge. The shelter's currently caring for 100 cats and dogs, twice as many as usual. They had to turn away 10 more only this morning. Sadly, they're expecting to be even busier after the season of goodwill.
Peace and goodwill to all men, but not always to the animals. A look at the sports news now, and first congratulations to Swindon, who've made it through to the 3rd round of the Simard Cup. Last night they beat Derby 2-1 with goals from Jimmy Quinn and Dave Hockaday. Bristol Rovers goalkeeper Timmy Carter is joining Sunderland in a deal that could be worth £70,000. And a quick look at the Boxing Day league fixture list. Swindon will meet Reading, Rovers are at home to Fulham, and Bristol City play Gillingham. In rugby, Bath play Clifton, Bristol face Weston, and Lydney take on mighty Gloucester. Well, what's the weather going to be like at Christmas? Our man at the map, Tony Target.
Yes, thanks, Chris. I think it'll be a mild Christmas, a bright one rather than the white one. Although cloud, rain and wind will return on Boxing Day. Here's the satellite picture. This clear slot in the middle is Christmas Day weather, dry and fine, quite sunny too. But out here to the west, there's some rain for Boxing Day and some strong winds as well. We look at tonight's picture first of all. You can see A lot of cloud about and some rain in most places this evening, although that will clear, I think, soon after midnight. There may be a few showers near the west, but most places are becoming dry by the morning, and not a cold night either. The pressure is 1,012 millibars and falling. And then tomorrow, Christmas Day, a fine, dry day and mild too, with a good deal of sunshine around. There may be a few early showers near the West Somerset coast, but most places dry. And then on Boxing Day, cloud and rain returning, and it'll become quite windy, but in all events, it'll turn quite mild. 10 degrees Celsius is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's it.
Thanks, Tony. Come on over here, as it's Christmas. We'll let you sit down for once.
Thank you very much, Chris.
That's it for tonight. From all the Points West team, a very happy Christmas. Just time for Tony to get his Christmas present. I'm afraid it's just the usual BBC tie, Tony. You know, the one with small checks.
Will it bounce?
They usually do. Good luck.
Christmas Eve on BBC One. At 6:20, Jim will fix it, and for some more lucky people, their Christmas dreams become realities. At 7 o'clock, a Showbiz Question of Sport with Roy Castle and Bernard Manning. At 7:30, EastEnders.
Merry Christmas, Chuck.
And the Lenny Henry Christmas Special is at 8 o'clock.
Cold here in my flat, you know. The only way I can stay warm is to leave the fridge door open.
At 8:40, feature film adventure in High Road to China.
I want to rent your planes for the next 2 weeks.
What for?
10,000 pounds.
There's a storm rolling over the hill.
At 10:40, Christmas Eve with Val Doonican and his guests.
Standing here staring at the window, safe and warm.
A musical end to Christmas Eve on BBC One. Now on BBC One, for a few lucky people, Jimmy Savile fixes it for Christmas.